The US Treasury has issued fresh sanctions targeting Cuba's main intelligence agency and several top leaders and ministers, the latest move by Washington to ramp up pressure on the Caribbean island nation. Havana is stressing its right to defend itself following reports that it obtained hundreds of drones from Russia and Iran and was considering using them against the US. Well, for more, let's cross live now to Ed Augustin. He's our correspondent in Cuba. Good to have you with us on the programme, Ed. Firstly, how serious do you think this mounting diplomatic spat is here between Cuba and the US? It's now being forced to deny it's not planning an attack on the United States.
Oh, it's incredibly serious. It's a cliche in Cuba, and amongst Cubans. We're waiting for the Americans to attack because the government or regime, if you prefer, here has been talking about it for 67 years, and with good reason. There's been repeated threats made, but never as much as this year. The President of the United States has repeatedly and explicitly talked about possible military intervention, has once said that he thinks he could take Cuba. And there have been briefings in the press, reports of the Pentagon drawing up attack strikes, and plans for attack. And so the stakes are very, very high. The Cuban population are genuinely worried, those that I speak to, about the possibility of war, are genuinely worried about bombs falling. They see what happened in Venezuela. They see what's happened in Iran. They see Donald Trump as a very mercurial president that's unpredictable. And the population does not want war. The Cuban government has lost a lot of legitimacy in recent years. There's no polls. We don't know how many people support it. Some do, lots don't. But this is not a country that wants to be invaded. Cubans know what that means. They look around the world.
And Ed, how credible are these reports that Cuba has received drones from Russia and Iran? Have authorities there addressed those allegations at all?
I think they are credible. What's not credible is the way it's being presented. So I don't have any information about where they might have got the drones from, but I had a few conversations today where people indicated that, yes, Cuba does have drones. And in a sense, there is only one strategic military eventuality this government has been preparing for 2/3 of a century, and that is US attack, be it direct or indirect. Indirect has happened many times. That's it. That is what they're prepared for here. And looking at how successfully Iran has deployed drones in asymmetrical warfare, it's hardly surprising that Cuba, an even weaker country and even closer to the United States, would look to drones. What is, frankly, flipping reality on its head, or attempts by the State Department to make out that Cuba is a threat to the United States national security. An extraordinary threat is what they called it back in January. And now trying to make out that because it has drones that the Cuban government has emphasized it would only use if attacked, then somehow it's a threat. They point out that it could attack Guantanamo Bay. Well, Guantanamo Bay is illegally occupied by the United States. They point out that it couldn't hit Florida. Perhaps they could. But there's only one country that's threatening military intervention in another. There's only one country that is strangling the economy of another. There's only one country that is killing civilians at the moment with this petrol blockade that's now just 4 months, and it's the United States of America. And the attempt to try and conjure up and fabricate the notion that Cuba is a threat, when the Pentagon has said repeatedly ever since the 1990s that Cuba is unable to project military force to the United States, and that the main security threat, such as there is, would be a mass migration event created by the US policy of trying to create a failed state. By trying to make out that Cuba is a threat to the US, the State Department, frankly, is on cloud nine. They're cutting against every intelligence assessment, every Pentagon assessment that's been made for the last 30 years.
And Ed, you mentioned the petrol blockade there, the US imposed blockade on the island. What exactly are conditions like for people in Cuba right now? We're hearing that there are going to be fresh sanctions imposed as well today by the US.
Conditions are unspeakably bad. Just imagine, wherever you are in the world, imagine living in a country that all of a sudden doesn't have energy. I just come back from a reporting trip in eastern Cuba. Their farmers have not been able to use tractors since February. There's no diesel. People in the country's second main city, Santiago de Cuba, are receiving 2 or 3 or 4 hours of power a day, not power cuts a day, power a day. The food is rotting in their fridge. They're cooking with charcoal because they're not receiving any liquid cooking gas, because that used to come from Venezuela before the United States kidnapped that country's president in January. We're seeing the systematic immiseration of a population. Vaccines are going off, cannot be refrigerated. Hospitals, the lights are going off. Children are dying. The infant mortality rate is rocketing up. Every single social economic indicator is cratering right now. And needless to say, it's the most vulnerable groups. It's the Black population, it's pregnant women, it's young children, it's the elderly, it's people that work for the state because they can't get a job in the private sector in Havana because in most of the country there is no private sector, that are being hit. So this is not just collective punishment of the civilian population, it's specifically hitting the weakest, and they are dying.
Ed, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thanks so much, though, for bringing us right up to speed. That's our correspondent in Cuba, Ed Augustin.